Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very green backyard, finally, for me, Gary Ryan, the Fed League Flash, right here on the Fed Flash Face-Off. Second to last show that we're going to have for this season. What we're going to do, and I'll talk about this at the end, we're going to take a little break, reset, and start again in June. We will have a weekly show continuing through the summer because even though the play on the ice is ended, the Fed goes on. All right, so coming up in this episode, we're going to be talking about the SPHL and the Fed in the Flash Chat, but not the kind of comparison that we've talked about in the past with what's going on the ice. We're talking about what's going on off the ice. And this time, there's a big difference. We'll talk about that. We're also going to have news and notes. We're going to be talking about all the good news that's coming out of Watertown as they've gotten themselves a new ownership group. All the announcements they've been making throughout this past week. Hopefully, more to come. And we're also going to be talking about the re-emergence and resurgence of the Minnesota Northern Lights. What happened? 2-3 weeks ago, it didn't look like things were going to get off the ground. I recorded a special video talking about, I don't know if they're playing or not. Everything's looking on track there. We'll talk about that and other things as well. Also, we'll be giving you a snapshot of the final couple of games in Binghamton coming up this weekend as the PD Ice Cats and the Binghamton Black Bears battle it out for the Commissioner's Cup. So stay tuned. Thank you for joining me. Always remember, if you want to go right to a segment, just go down here where it says more, click on more, and that'll bring up your timestamps. You can click on the timestamp, go right to the Flash Chat or right to news and notes, whatever you want to do. For those of you who watch the whole thing, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's begin our show, shall we?
What did he say?
All right, so today for the Flash Chat, I'm going to talk about, yes, it's another SPHL, FPHL comparison / contrast. But this time I want to specifically focus on the economic and business aspects of things. So now I know some of you might not initially be interested in that. However, it really is a good indicator as far as the health of the two leagues. And the reason why it is so important is because we have the situation that happened just a couple weeks ago with Athens, moving from the FPHL to the SPHL. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and we've done comparisons as far as the quality of play and the growth of the leagues and stuff like that, and looked at that, and the SPHL and the FPHL are not that dissimilar in those areas. However, when it comes to economics and with business acumen, the SPHL is still years ahead of the Fed. And that's just a hard truth. That's not slamming the Fed. That's just saying there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of growth in this particular area that still needs to occur. Okay? The SPHL and the FPHL are battling with each other. Hence, that's why I created the graphic at for the tease for this video. They are in competition with each other for fans, for players, talent. It's a fierce competition, and it has been for quite a while now. I just want to do some comparisons side by side as far as looking at both leagues. All right, just run through some small stats and factoids and things like that for you. All right, so the SPHL was founded in 2004. They have a 6-year head start on the FPHL. This is their 22nd season that they are finishing up now, and they have been pretty solid. Currently a 10-team league. It looks to become 11 next year, and right now they're looking at 12 for the following season, the 27 to 28 season, when Mobile, Alabama joins them as an expansion club. The FPHL, we're going to call them, as of this moment, 15 teams. All right, Athens is gone, and Baton Rouge is gone. By all indications, Biloxi is gone. But coming in, we have Mid-South and Minnesota Northern Lights. Everything looks good there right now. And it's still questionable. It's still kind of up in the air, but yeah, Motor City. We'll talk a little bit more about that in news and notes. All right. So 15 teams, you could say. Losing 3. SPHL, not losing anybody. Okay, when the two leagues started, the SPHL in 2004, the Fed in 2010, SPHL was a 9-team league. The Fed was a 6-team league. Over the course of their existence, the SPHL has been as small as 7 teams and as large as 11 teams. They don't have the constant fluctuation that the Fed has had. All right, the Fed has ranged anywhere from 4 teams in their fourth season. It was down to 4 teams, up to its current 15, if you count Motor City. Motor City is still an active franchise, even though they were dormant this current year. All right, they pay league dues. They participate in board of governors meetings. It's an active franchise. They just don't have players and arena and all that kind of stuff set for this year. Now, the capacity of arenas. This says something too. With the FPHL, capacity for the team's arenas range anywhere from 1,000 in Indiana to, 9,100 was this last year with Biloxi. You're losing the 2 top arenas in the league this year with Biloxi and Baton Rouge. They had the largest capacity. Of course, they were never filled or close to it. So right now, the largest arena from teams this past year would be Topeka. The Stormontville Event Center holds a little over 7,700 fans. But coming in, Mid-South, the Landers Center seats about 8,400. So that will be the largest arena in the league for the 26 to 27 season. Now, Athens, when they transfer over, they go from, like about the upper third in capacity for the Fed to, they will be the third smallest arena, 5,600. The SPHL's capacity goes anywhere from 4,100, that's Evansville, Indiana, to 9,800, which is, I believe that was Fayetteville. But Mobile coming in a couple of years, the capacity there is a little over 10,000. So they're larger arenas in general. Okay, the SPHL you could classify as having been very stable since about 2018. There has only been one fluctuation in league membership, number of teams in the league, since 2018. So that's 8 seasons. That being the failed Vermilion County Bobcats. And that was just an odd story in and of itself, which I'm not really ever going to cover. But there's a lot of stuff out there on the web that you can find about that. Now the Fed, their, I guess you could say, best claim is that they have had a tremendous amount of growth, both with fans, fan support, and with number of teams. Since the 2021 to 22 season, they've doubled in size. They were 7 teams that season. Now they're 14. So, yeah, that's been good. The most recent folds for the SP, the aforementioned Vermilion County Bobcats in 2023. Mississippi River Kings would be 2018. That's now where Mid-South is going to be playing. You have the Columbus Cottonmouths, the team that was in Columbus, Georgia before the River Dragons. That was 2017. And then the Louisiana Ice Skaters, who played in Lafayette, Louisiana. 2016, they didn't exactly fold. They went inactive for a year. They said, we've got to do a whole bunch of renovations to Lafayette Arena, which I don't know how much ever got done, but the team never actually came back. In that iteration, the rights to the team were purchased and transferred to Quad City. They became the Quad City Storm in 2018. All right. You look at the last few teams that folded. This year, you got Biloxi, you got Baton Rouge. Last year, you had HC Venom. Oh, that's kind of a move, but not exactly. You had the Dashers that folded. So 4 teams in 4 years. As a matter of fact, in the last 7 years, there have been 7 either relocations or cease of operations. That's Delaware Thunder, the Elmira Mammoth, the Elmira River Sharks, because that was a separate entity, Hudson Valley Venom, the Seawolves / Breakers, the Dashers, and now the Zydeco. So, total teams over the course of the history of the leagues. Mind you, SP has 6 years on the Fed. They've been around for 22 years. They have had a total of 15 teams that have either folded or relocated. The Fed in 16 years, 31. A lot more instability. Some other little characteristics to mention. SPHL still has 2 original franchises, that being the Huntsville Havoc and the Knoxville Ice Bears. They are original franchises. Plus, Fayetteville has been a continual city over the course of the year. The Fire Ants played until 2017, and then new management, new ownership came in. It became the Fayetteville Marksmen. All right. Excuse me. In the Fed, you have 1 original team, and that's Watertown Wolves. For a short period of time, we thought we had lost them. Thankfully, we see it, they're saved. More about that in news and notes. All right. Danbury, even though it is a different club, obviously, the Hat Tricks are not the same as the Whalers. However, they're owned and operated by the same person, Herm Sorcher. There has been hockey in Danbury for all but 2 years in the history of the Fed. So Danbury is kind of like an original city, an original market, same arena, just different franchises. All right, so upcoming expansion, of course, we have in the SP, Athens is coming in. Mobile coming the next season. We mentioned that before. We got Mississippi, Minnesota, and hopefully Motor City in the Fed. All right. As far as profitability, with the SPHL, with the 10 teams that operated in the league this last year, 8 made a significant profit. One team essentially broke even, and one team had a slight loss, not a significant loss. So financially, the teams in the SP are doing very, very well. That's according to some information that I have tracked down, and it took a while to find some of that information, but nonetheless, compared to the Fed, 14 teams this last year, 8 teams made a profit, 2 teams essentially broke even, 4 teams operated with a loss, 3 had a significant loss. So not quite the airtight record in the Fed there. All right, let's look at the cap space or the salary cap as far as what's supposed to be. For the SP, the last numbers that I was able to get, sounds like the salary cap for this upcoming year, excuse me, it's going to be around $8,400 per week for each team to operate. I should mention this too. The SP is very strict as far as their salary cap. All right, there isn't what we have in the Fed. In the Fed, the cap this last year was $5,700 per team per week. And there is supposed to be about an $1,800 increase for this upcoming season, which is good. And that's very important that there is a narrowing of the gap between the Fed and the SP. The reason for that is that obviously we have some teams that pay money under the table. And I'll get into this at the end of this too a little bit more, but why hasn't the league cracked down on it? We'll get into that. All right. Some teams operated at the cap. Watertown operated under the cap. Actually, I believe Baton Rouge did as well, if I remember hearing correctly. The cap ceiling was $5,700, and neither Watertown or Baton Rouge was there. All right. So you have the haves and the have-nots. Okay. As far as new markets, with establishing new markets, typically the pattern in the SP, as they look to future expansion opportunities, they want to make sure that everything is completely vetted with an ownership group first. After that is settled, then they look at venue and make sure that everything is viable with the venue. There is a very heavy vetting process in the SP, and I believe this is the biggest reason why the SP is so much more successful financially, pulls in a lot more money than the Fed, is because they have an intense vetting process. First of all, I don't know what they go by, whether they're called the executive board or not, but the leadership of the SPHL does their own investigation looking at potentially interested ownership groups. Then it goes to a vote, and the board of governors all look over the numbers very carefully. And if they are in agreement, yeah, all the financials look really, really good here. We're going to approve this expansion team. And they begin. That's why you don't see teams failing like right off the get-go. In the FPHL, generally speaking, it's not always this way, but generally speaking, it'd be really nice to fill such and such an arena in Pumpkinville, real nice facility there. Hey, any ownership groups interested in having a team in Pumpkinville? Well, okay, yeah. They start with the venue, basically, and then kind of plug the ownership group into that. And that's not the best way to go. Plus, as far as I know, the information that I've received to this point is that the executive committee of the SPHL makes a decision whether they want to allow such and such an ownership group in. And generally speaking, they get in. If they have the money for the expansion fee, it's welcome to the club. Okay. One instance I just want to share. There was news or rumblings a couple years ago, like 3 seasons ago, that the SPHL was looking very carefully and very hard at Clarksville, Tennessee. Beautiful facility that had the 3 ice tournaments there. It's an arena that's built within a mall, attracts a lot of people. Beautiful, beautiful facility, state of the art. And the SP was very interested in it. When they looked at the ownership group, they had questions. And so ultimately they decided we're not going to pursue Clarksville, Tennessee, at least not at this time. Very, very careful. All right. Okay, common markets. Well, we have Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They're the Thunderbirds. We have Columbus, Georgia. We have Biloxi. We have Danville, Illinois, with the Dashers, and now we have Athens, Georgia. All the, they'll have been in both leagues. This is one number that really struck out at me, though. Common ownership. In other words, a person that owns more than one team. Well, right now, we have in the SP, we have Chuck Norris. No, not that one. not the legend, but hockey Chuck Norris owns 2 teams. He owns Macon and he owns Fayetteville. Compare that to just 2 seasons ago, we had Barry Soskin that at least had a stake or a share in ownership in 8 of the 14 teams. So that's a bit much. This last year, we had a couple of owners who had their hands in 4 different teams. So that says something there. Well, let's just start to kind of wrap this up because I know I've been going on for a while. Let's move from the little stats and the facts and just get to what has happened over the last few years. The battle between the 2 leagues. Okay, first of all, they're trying to get the same talent. They're both single A leagues. I will concede that, at least on a talent level, yes, the SP still has a slight edge over the SPHL because there is generally better structured systems that the teams play with. The goaltending is better. The defensive structure is much better, typically, in the SP than in the Fed. The Fed, you've got some more offense, yeah. But, of course, that's kind of the counterpart to the defense isn't as structured. These 2 teams, or 2 leagues, they've been trying to recruit the same talent. They've been trying to get some of the same coaches in. Hey, come to us. No, come to us. It's been a battle. Okay, the SPHL kind of poked the bear a little bit with the SP a number of years ago when they began their southern expansion, starting off with Twin City. Again, we mentioned before that once upon a time we had the Twin City Cyclones, we had the Winston-Salem Thunderbirds there as part of the SPHL, and then we moved into Columbus. And then Biloxi, and then Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge was never an SPHL city, but the SPHL was very, very interested. And so it was kind of a coup at the time when Barry Soskin arranged that 3-game deal. And let's do expansion or exhibition games in Baton Rouge and get the community excited about the Fed. Okay, now we got a Fed team 3 years later. Okay, So that was the first punch thrown, if you will. Then the big punch really has been the exodus of a lot of talent from the SP to the SPHL. There are more opportunities in the Fed just because there are more teams, and a lot of those teams were willing to pay under the table. So, if Garrett Milan is weighing his options, do I play the SP, make their salary, or do I go to Athens, make the salary plus some extra? Yeah, guess where I'm going to go. Okay, again, 11 of the 14 teams in the league had at least one player that was paid under the table. All right, so this obviously it happens more with a couple of teams than it did with others, but it was not just a couple of teams. It wasn't just Binghamton. It wasn't just Monroe. Okay, there are quite a few teams paid at least one player under the table to play in their city. All right. But yeah, that's why the league hasn't cracked down on it, because suddenly we were able to get all these great players. We got CJ Stubbs, we've got the Marcinkiewicz brothers, we've got Forneris, we've got Albrecht, we got all these players. We got Milan, we've got Shinkarik, we got all these players that want to play in the FPHL. Yeah, because you're throwing money at them. All right. With the cap going up, will we see a change in the FPHL with that? Possibly, but that's a discussion for another day. All right, so the SP has been licking their wounds a little bit. Unbeknownst to most people, including myself, back before Christmas, negotiations started between Athens and the SP. The SP had originally rejected Athens' application for membership back before the Rock Lobsters were named the Rock Lobsters. Okay, they wanted to be an SPHL team. At the time, there was some issues with management. The SPHL said no. So then the Fed comes into Athens, said, hey, I know we're not your first choice, but how about joining us? Sure. Okay. All right. Management issues have long since been cleared up in Athens. So Athens asks the SP again, hey, got any room for us? SP said, let's take a look. Great market. The fans fill the barn. So, and there's a lot of money there. So, yeah, everything looks good. All right, so the SP adds Mobile. Now, Mobile didn't have an arena for a couple of years. Start building a brand new arena. There's rumors about the Fed's going to try and see if they could interest Mobile into coming into the FPHL, but the SPHL did the same thing. And Mobile said, yeah, we'd like to be a part of the SPHL. So there you go. And now there is rumors, and I will not name the team, but there is rumors of potentially another Fed team defecting for the 27 to 28 season. And a lot of that is going to depend on how Athens does this next year. I'm sure everybody's going to be watching that very, very closely. Now, the final thing to wrap this up. I know this is a longer segment. We're near the end of the year, so it's okay. This is the bulk of this video. What about a merger? Why can't the two parties get together and agree to a merger? Well, first of all, we have differences of opinion. We have egos. I think I've mentioned this before in past videos. Doug Price, Don Kiernan do not see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I'm not pointing specifically at just those two. All right. With the leadership group of the SPHL and the leadership group of the FPHL, there are a lot of differences of opinions, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different philosophies that the two sides do not agree on. With the current leadership in both leagues, a merger just is not happening. It's not. But even if we did get new leadership in the FPHL and new leadership in the SPHL, you look at the financials, you look at the numbers, you look at the strength of the teams in the books, and you're going to see, wow, these SPHL teams doing a whole lot better financially than the FPHL teams. If there were ever a merger, I wouldn't actually call it a merger. Just as back in 1979, the NHL and the WHA merged. It wasn't a merger. It was not a true merger. Basically, the NHL dictated terms and the WHA fought for the best terms as possible. And finally, when they thought this is the best offer we're going to get, they agreed to it. And the NHL basically annexed 4 teams. All right. The other 3 teams that were still in existence with the WHA, they were given a nice little cash payout to quietly go away. So that was it. That was the end of the story. And so the 4 teams, now only one is still in its original city. They haven't had the success, except for Edmonton, in the NHL that they had in the WHA. So if you had a situation with the SP and the Fed got together and said, yeah, let's form a single league, well, I think you'd probably have maybe 5 teams from the Fed that would survive and that would carry over into a new SPHL, and it would be an SPHL league. So basically, it would be the absorption and discontinuation of the Fed. And again, that's not to be negative or to finger point or anything like that. It's just a fact. Again, the SPHL is a much stronger, better structured financially league than the Fed because they've been very careful, very calculated all along. The SP has maybe erred on the side of caution over the years, but in the end, to their greater success and to their shared success. And now you've got 10 very, very stable franchises in the SP, soon to be 11, soon to be 12. There we go. So I just wanted to spend some time touching on that because it is very pertinent, very important. And even though we don't tend to think about the behind the scenes stuff, the business stuff that we do with, that we do in maybe the real world, it's there. Hockey is a business first and foremost. It's an entertainment business. All right, we're just the end consumers. So I hope I didn't bore you too much with all those little facts and statistics and all that kind of stuff, but I thought it was very important to discuss this because it's pretty important right now, even if we don't necessarily think about it very often. All right, news and notes is going to be kind of split up because we have quite a bit of news that happened in the early part of this week. All right, first of all, I'm wearing a Watertown Wolves jersey from a couple of seasons ago because one of the things we do want to talk about is Watertown Wolves. Before I mention that, though, there is one specific piece of news that I want to tell you about in regards to, this doesn't concern the average fan, so to speak, but in the end, a lot's going to come out of this. So I want to mention that the annual meetings for the SPHL, in which the Board of Governors and support staff and the executive board, they all converge, they all meet together and discuss things like expansion and expansion and expansion. Some procedures, any rule changes that the committee wishes to make, draft dates and details. Start talking about the schedule, any kind of operational guidelines. All these things are going to be heavily discussed in 3 days of meetings. That will be May 19th through the 21st. So 2 weeks, well, a little less than 2 weeks from now. It'll be Tuesday the 19th through Thursday the 21st. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion, in particular about expansion and what this means to all the teams. All right, let's get on to Watertown because, of course, we had fantastic news that was first broken on, Saturday. The Watertown Wolves do indeed have new management, new ownership, and they are already very heavily making their presence known, letting it be known we're not the old Watertown Wolves. We're going to interact with you and partner with you, you meaning the community, businesses, whatnot. Very, very good. So the owner is Dan Drake. He is the owner of a local business in the Watertown area called the Card Connection. And he's a longtime Watertown Wolves fan. Looks like he has quite a jersey collection himself. But anyway, he's been doing social media posts every day. Saturday, of course, he announced the team is back. It's under new ownership. We're gonna be making this a good organization again. All right. The next day, Sunday, he announced that Brett Clark has been chosen as the next head coach. Which he's coached the Wolves already in 2 iterations and won a couple cups. So he's okay. He's very good. Very, very good. And so Clark is going to be leading the team once again. I don't know if he'll be contributing with the GM duties as well. He's very knowledgeable as far as being able to recruit. He's got a lot of connections. So I wouldn't be surprised if indeed he does do that. I would kind of think he does. But his main focus is he's the coach. All right. Monday, there was a nice little video that Drake did talking about partnering with local corporations and businesses, sponsors, also tying into the fact that not only does he own the Wolves now, but he also owns the Watertown Rapids Baseball Club as well. That's like a collegiate summer league up in Watertown. And he's looking for sponsorships, partnerships for both organizations. But he's really focused on getting things done. And he's already promised that he's going to, in his words, over deliver. That this is not the leadership of the past. So he's very, very active, very good, very very savvy as far as using social media and everything, and that's great. That's very important in this league. The league is a social media driven league. And if you are very savvy with social media and how to use it and utilize it properly, yeah, good things are going to happen. So very encouraging signs from Watertown. Okay. Next piece of news, Motor City. Still no news. Next, literally. Next, I want to talk about the Minnesota Northern Lights. Obviously, we've seen a lot of activity over the last couple weeks. Once again, on the Minnesota Northern Lights page or pages. Obviously, things went very quiet after the neutral site games for a while. Well, there's a reason for that, is because things started to fall apart, but now we have a new GM, and that GM is Aaron Arlt. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's spelled A-R-L-T. My apologies if I mispronounced that. He is a successful business owner of multiple businesses in the Thief River Falls area, and very, very successful, very involved in the community, and he is now the team GM. He did say that Sean Jones is no longer with the organization, and as of the time I am recording this, there's a little delay in getting things established as far as getting the graphics back that Foozer designed and created for the team. The word marks, the Moose logo, the Minnesota State logo, all that kind of stuff. That is still, I guess you can say, in transfer. Now, there is a little bit of a disconcerting piece, though, that came out from the Thief River Falls Times, or the TRF Times, which is the local newspaper in that area. Announced or printed on April 24th, the Thief River Falls Council had made the decision to terminate the arena management company that is overseeing not just the Ralph Engelstad Arena, but the complex that's there, the concert hall, and all the other things there. They are seeking to terminate that contract. The contract runs until June of 2030. However, there is a proviso in the contract that says either party may terminate the contract with a notice of intent, with a letter of 30 days ahead of time. So basically, as of the end of May, it looks like this group is out. According to Megan Arlt, who serves on the council, as a work group, we have concerns that the management team we hired for the Ralph Engelstad Arena is underperforming. Okay, now it's unknown as of this moment who will take over operations with running and managing the arena. According to the Borough Council, there are options available, including running the arena on an interim basis. That is a possibility. But still, this is a bit of a hiccup. While this isn't the team per se that the problem is with, it's with the management group. It does throw a kind of a wrench into the works right now, because you need management involved, or somebody operating the arena, the facility itself. So we will see what happens, but that is a little bit worrisome, especially at this point in the game. The team was announced in December, and here we are in early May, and wondering, well, okay, apparently everything's okay with the team, but what about the place that they want to play in? What's going on with that? And we still don't have a clear indication as far as how this is really owned or operated. As I mentioned in the video I did a couple weeks ago, and got flack for, by the way, have the lights faded. I mentioned we really don't have a clear indication as far as how this is going to be financially operated. What was described loosely was kind of like what you have in Green Bay with the Packers football team, is that it's community owned. It's owned by stockholders, shareholders. In this case, you don't have a public company in the Minnesota Northern Lights, so assumably that would mean that it's run by a conglomeration of business owners and corporations and trustees and things like that, which is unusual, very unusual. We'll wait and see what happens. So that's what's going on in this segment. Now we move to...
Oh no!
California. Yep, California. Hockey, Fed hockey in California. All right, so yeah, Tuesday was the big news. And of course, we had the announcement coming from the news outlets in San Diego that, yes, there will be an SPHL team taking to the ice this October in Oceanside, suburban Oceanside, California. Okay. Also, not initially announced, but as I did some digging, check with some contacts, found out that yes, there's going to be two other teams in California as well, in Fresno and in Stockton. Now, the common denominator with those three cities are that they either had or have professional hockey on the AHL level. We have the San Diego Gulls, very successful team in the SPHL. They are always among the top 5 in team attendance, or in attendance to the games. Draw very, very well. They play very well. Quite honestly, I haven't followed the AHL enough this year, so I don't know how they finished up the year, but they've had success in the past. All right, so we have that. Fresno had an AHL team for a short time. Didn't work out there. Also, we had both ECHL and AHL hockey in Stockton. We had the Stockton Thunder, which was in the ECHL, and then the team was relocated due to low attendance. So this was, 2015. The Calgary Flames said, we'll put our farm team there. They previously were in Abbotsford as the Abbotsford Heat. Let's move it down to Stockton. Now the Stockton Heat. Okay. Operated for 7 years, and I don't know financials and anything like that, but in 2022, the Calgary Flames decided, you know what, other teams are doing this. We're going to pull our farm team, move it into our barn here in Calgary, save a lot on costs and operations and all that kind of stuff. That seemed to be kind of a fad for a while in the NHL. So that left Stockton without a team since 2022. Now, what I am told is that this is a conjoined effort between, as far as brokering the placement and operation of the teams. This is a conglomerated effort between Don Kiernan, who of course is the commissioner of the league, Scott Brand, who has operated as business GM for the Thunderbirds, for the River Dragons, for the PD Ice Cats, for Motor City. He's been around and he's done very well for himself. So the three of them have partnered with local ownership out in California to place SPHL hockey teams there. Now, the first thought is, okay, so you have three teams all the way out in California, and right now the next closest team you have is Topeka. But wait, there's more. What exactly is the more? Now, that's still being worked out. But there are a lot of rumors circulating about a team or two possibly being placed in Texas. There's the possibility of also maybe another Midwestern, Southwestern team coming into the fold and truly making the FPHL a coast to coast league, which I did mention a couple of summers ago. It was either a couple of summers ago or last summer where I talked about the Fed would love to get to 20 teams by 2030. Well, they're ahead of the pace right now, apparently. Interesting post that Scott Brand made on his personal Facebook page. He said, quote, "To get to 8, you have to start with 1." And that's referring to San Diego. Also, what if teams out of a footprint for now helped with travel? Meaning, hey, we're out here in California. Obviously, it costs a lot of money to travel, whether it be by bus or plane. Yes, the Spirit Airlines jokes are flying around like crazy. Meaning, yeah, they would help cover the traveling team's expenses. Well, that sounds nice. That's a nice olive branch, except for it costs a gob of money to do business in California, one of the most whacked out economies in the United States. All right, very expensive to do business out there. Very, very expensive due to tax laws and state budgets and all sorts of factors. California is not a cheap place to live, work, or have a business in. So, in my mind, you already got strikes 1 and 2 against you. And I'm just being brutally honest. I am not a businessman. No. Scott Brand is a businessman. Don Kiernan is a businessman. We saw evidence initially with Monroe and with PD when he started things off that Parker Moscal is a businessman. But where does the risk outweigh the benefit? That's the question. We can't really determine that at this moment. But anyway, so getting back to Scott's statement, to get to 8, you need to start with 1. So this sounds like it's still a progressive work to balloon expand the Fed. Now, there's a lot of indications in that. Well, what does this mean for an expansion draft? What does this mean for teams that are trying to protect as many players on their roster as possible? What does this mean for travel costs? How do all the logistics work? This is going to be a major topic, and I think it's one that's going to use up most of the time in the spring meetings, the annual spring meetings. How do you work all this out? Now, I've heard rumors that there are 2 markets in Texas being looked at, other markets being looked at. So, from what I've heard, okay, you're looking at another 6, plus you got Mid-South and hopefully Minnesota coming in. So, all right, there you go. As I'm recording this right now, we are at 13 teams plus the 3 in California. The new 3 would make it 16. Well, we could have 2, 3, 4 more. So we could have a 20-team league this year. How is that all going to work? I have no clue, no idea whatsoever. But it's going to be interesting. Now, another issue that I want to mention real quick, and I have to credit specifically Brendan Schwabel from the 10-minute misconduct / the trash talk page. All right. He raised an excellent point, and I want to give him all the credit in the world because he was the first one to raise this question. And it's a darn good question. What about the jock tax? What is the jock tax? It is a tax California has where non-resident athletes, whether they are practicing or performing in the state, have to pay what's been commonly called the jock tax, which is a tax of up to 13.3% on your income for the privilege of playing in California. All right. There's a reason, and this is it right here, that in the NHL, when players that have no movement clauses, maybe they don't have a complete no movement clause with the team that they're playing for. Maybe they just say, you can't trade me to these teams. And usually the California teams are named. So, and this is why, because when you're making $6 million a year, 13.3% is a lot of coin. Now, conversely, in the Fed, when you're not making much, on the books, you're making at most $400. If you're trying to live off that, 13.3 is a big, big pinch on your already limited and small wallet. This is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of players. A lot of players are going to say, I am not playing out in California. Sorry, no way. Just like every year we see when there's a new team and we get ready for the expansion draft, invariably there's always a few players that end up getting drafted, and the player basically says, well, that's very nice, thanks for the thought, but there's no way I'm playing for you. Either because, conditions I can't, or I have my reasons for not coming out there. So this is going to happen a lot. How do we get 60 people, 20 per team? Well, 63, because if you keep the roster limitations that you had this last year with 20 plus 1, 63 players. Are they all going to be like, yeah, I'll go to Cali. I'll pay 13.3%. It's not going to be easy. I wish I could look at this and somehow, some way be optimistic about it, but I can't. I cannot. I know, Scott and Parker and Don are businessmen. They've had their successes. They've had their failures. All right. Now that's part of business. You take risks. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. I don't see how this can be a win in any way, shape, or form. I really, really can't. And I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry that, I paint a picture of gloom. I don't intend to do that. But quite honestly, it's just not from what little bit of business acumen that I do have and understanding, the math don't math. It's just, it's weird. So that's the controversy. How is this going to work? Is this going to work? What impact does this have on the rest of the Fed, on the 11 established teams? How does this work? We don't know. My brother has a saying about, going through life, trying different ventures, trying different things, trying different hobbies. He says, it's a matter of throwing things against a wall and seeing what sticks. That's not a wise way to do business. So if that's the mindset that's at play here, I'm worried. So there you go. Not much else more I can say about that, but obviously this is big news. And by the indications, we are going to see more announcements made by the end of the month. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I was hoping to take a little break after the finals for 2 weeks. Doesn't look like that's happening now. But anyway, all right, let's move on. All right, so that does it for this week's show. I'm so glad you tuned in. Appreciate it. Next week is going to be the last show of the season, and we're going to be focusing on a couple different things. First, we'll be recapping the finals. It's the end of the year. I am also going to be bringing you a very exciting interview. I'm not going to mention who it is yet, but I will after everything's recorded, and I think you'll really look forward to it. Also going to address the topic why a relatively balanced schedule is so important, so vital to the health of the league on the whole and the teams individually. And then I'll be just kind of wrapping things up, kind of looking back at the year on the whole and sharing some of my thoughts with you. So there we go. That's going to be it for this season, the 25-26 season. It's hard to believe it's just about over. All right, always remember you can email me at fedflash15@gmail.com. And always remember as well, the segments are right down here. And you can go to whatever segment you want, whatever timestamp. You can go right to that segment. If you can't watch the whole thing, I do appreciate those of you who do watch the whole thing. I know several of you do. And I thank you so much for doing that, for all your support, and for tuning in all year round. Okay, so that wraps up this week. Until next time, I am Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash. Keep your head up, keep your stick on the ice, and always remember, it's so important. Be excellent to each other. We'll see you next time.